during my time in this 27 years that I've lived, even if I am still young, we all have unique situations that make me all think that whatever it is, it's we are suffering the ideology of having to push for the very natural fact that human life is about, in a certain way, perspective about evolution. A lot of men argue about, why don't you be a man? I'm a good man. I'm a 6 foot tall fucking white guy, 6-pack, 6-inch dick, all of this crap, and it means nothing in the future, even though that people claim. A lot of bullies, they make people miserable, and some of these people that are victims go on to either be cowards and become bullies themselves, and like what I call it, the mass shooters, and people blame the mass shooters. They mock the quiet kids, but they themselves don't understand they're the ones causing the problems. What I'm trying to say, despite the fact that what I'm trying to say is the incels are not wrong. They're not miserable. They're not right. It's not about hate. It's not about woe is woman. It's not about this. It's about the men who are sexually successful reproductively. But it's not just about that. It's about the moment that a person's born, he as a man, is decided by what he has in his life. And most human nature is about trying to, at whatever it takes, at whatever odds it have, to survive. And most people nowadays, when you grow up in the young generation, they're sadistic because us, the young generation, Gen A, or Gen Z, they call them, Gen Z especially, are all competing amongst one another to be more the best at being a hypocrite. I seen, a couple of days ago, I don't really give a shit about, I do give a shit because I gave a shit about it. And I saw these TikTok girls, these 2 young women who were just, doing that. And of course they eyed me and all that. I was like, what the fuck are you doing, man? And one of them tried to deliberately, I don't know, maybe they were just walking into me. They were just blocking me from walking the other side. And for men, we're more honorable. It's a good thing. As men, 28 years later, the one good thing about 28 years later is that in the film that I watched, the big guy, Aaron Taylor Johnson's actor, Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, his brother, he's not actually a dad. I wouldn't say he's a dad, actually, because he looks too young to be a dad. It feels like it's his older brother. The child is not I don't know. It's quite difficult, but I would say, to be honest, I think I wouldn't know. The movie doesn't say much about it. But it shows a scene where the young kid pulls a knife on him, is scared of him, and he takes the knife quickly away, but he presents it back, and he's just he leaves it, and that's what a strong man does. But in the world that we live in today, we are all about the ego. If it was me, I would just probably take the knife and stab him, or I would probably punch him in the face and knock him out, and more morally, But 28 years later, it goes the fact that the father figure is not being attacked or anything. I did like his intense dislike about, feminism and all that. It's just ridiculous. It went fucking woke. It literally went fucking woke this time. It really did. And I was like, what the fuck, man? The wokeness is really a problem, but I also don't like the anti-SJWs kind of thing. Because, they're both on the same kind of issues. They're both same sides of the coin. Different sides, but on the same coin. Different sides of the same coin, sorry. And the fact is that every day, everywhere, everything that we live in through as a male is born through out of hardship and the lies that we're told by others to put us in a semblance of comfort. And you can't really blame the mass shooters for like, oh, he's always bullying me, but that's the nature of life. When the child that doesn't feel embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. It's not an excuse. It's not even a justification. It's the inevitable reality of what as human beings we are. And when you watch all these YouTubers and you say the people are the blue pillers. Human nature, even the famous YouTubers like Healthy Gamer Juju, they will all say all sorts of ridiculous things, even if they've got a PhD in the field. But the very nature of our reality is that humans simply want to survive. And that those who use power against others to be a jerk, to feel good about being a jerk, to feel good about their egos, and we use all sorts of coping mechanisms, you can't really blame the little dudes when they fight against the big dudes and they yell and they scream and they eventually get a knife and they kill them. Because it's the nature of an imbalance of power that, simply put, even I am guilty. That's why we have rules like don't attack an animal like an animal tinier than you, don't kill an animal that's just innocent like cats and all that. And then when you look at like our human nature of like bullying the little guys, we make fun of them. Don't you think that's contradictory? Like you see so many big guys trying to, show off, oh, look at the little guy. But the little guy can just get a knife, and the little guy has more experience than you in combat. I have other people who are also smaller than me, and I'm not like, of course, depending on how you are as a person, because you use all this to cope and compensate the fact that you are not genetically born, bigger, stronger, taller. But of course, people say about Ecclesiastes, oh, there's a time and chance for everything, and it's not the race does not belong to the swiftest. Yes, that's kind of right, but the majority of life is that it's been shown that the people who are dominant get the sexual advantage. Of course, there's some, like, they're right that, oh yeah, like, it's not about looks, it's about personality. It's all bull fucking shit what these people say. I told myself, I talked to this individual, right? In the meetup once, I said, oh, looks don't matter. You know what she did? She said, yeah. And then she got up and she got her boyfriend that was just like 6 foot tall male, was good looking. So she basically lied. And, she's Japanese and I didn't really bother. I was just like, I don't really care. Karma will get her and she'll get cheated on, or, someone will cheat on her and, someone will like fight her or some shit like that, and I don't really care. And these people these people will get their payback, and even if that's a coping mechanism, so what? They're not going to live successful lives, because sooner or later, people who, when they fall down, we're not going to mourn for them, because you have to understand human nature is not about elitism, but elitism has destroyed us. Elitism has destroyed us in so many ways that we forget the fact that it is, human nature needs to go back to its roots, the human condition and all such things. But we don't accept that. The Asian culture doesn't accept that. The Asian culture is so superficial. Like, oh, if you look ugly, I will not love you. If you look handsome, I will not love you. Oh, these people... And society has got us to think that love and everything else is so conditional, yet we say love is unconditional. We're becoming the greatest hypocritical generation for all our sex. And the good news, though, however, is that everyone is trying to accept the fact that it's all about survival of the fittest. But if everything's about survival of the fittest, then you've got to also accept the fact that the have-nots will want to take the power from the haves. And it's all right for nature to say, if the mass shooters, all these people are driven insane and they go kill somebody, that's nature's right to do as well, because people, it's nature, it's Darwinism. Mother Nature's culling out. It's just, but you got to accept the fact that the people who kill other people, that's also a way of Mother Nature culling. We, as human beings, are actually self-aware of our natures, and we're not all self-aware as well. We've got to accept the fact that evil is done because good is not given, or good is not perpetrated. All these serial killers, even those serial killers like Ted Bundy, they get love letters from women. And it's not a coping mechanism to say, looks do matter and all that. It's because people are fundamentally seeking a certain factor of figuring out how to win it. It's like, people are trying to figure out, how do I, get this poker card? People think that life is sort of increasingly like, get this, have this, get that, and people are trying to come across saying, no, it's not about that, it's about God, and everyone's talking about you're coping. But the very fact of like all these incel subgroups, the hate or the mock, look, incels may be hated, they might say they hate women, but we also increasingly ridicule and mock these subgroups just to make us feel good, and we actually are just as bad as they are, because when we do this, we're just becoming the bullies, and we're making their lives hard, and eventually there'll be another guy who's just gonna be a mass shooter, and we can't blame these people because we have made them, but we don't consider making them, and we say, no, it's your fault. So the bullies are still picking on the little guys, even though society tells us that it's not good to pick on the little guys. And then we are now actually saying that the bullies deserve to pick on the little guys because the little guys are weak. And some truth in there that the little guys are weak, they have to carry themselves with confidence. And it's about that kind of thing in life. That those who get picked on, those who don't get picked on. Those who deliver themselves with courage. Even if I'm smaller than you, then other people can say, hey, I'm more morally superior than fucking you because I don't lash out my anger at others. Good for you, buddy. You're a fucking hypocrite and you're a robot anyways, because you can prove all you want. You can say whatever fucking shit you want. But these people are hypocrites at the end. Even if they're morally just, they will, have others who are dickheads to them. And they will be dickheads to others. And the fact is that, as guys, we're very competitive about the nature that we want to have sex. And actually, females have given into this. Females say all this kind of shit. Males say all this kind of crap that we say to defend other females. Because females, by their very nature, is to give birth. And everything resides on that one particular instance that the females have to give birth, and we have to protect them, no matter what. But have we ever considered the fact that the males are the ones who are also in part of the equation that Mother Nature or nature has made us, that females have made us? Now, they're thinking that the XY chromosome and the XY chromosome is dying, but the XX chromosome is not. No, the XY chromosome is not dying. And even if, there's no such thing as males in the future, females are not going to evolve in such a way people like, calling a futar nari and all that kind of bullshit. But they'll still have problems with themselves. But on the one hand, the good thing is that, in a world where there are no males, it's good because males will fight each other and females will have to find a way to, copulate with themselves, but females have, of course, their own problems as well. But that's not to say that, oh, males won't rape us anymore, because it's the females that choose the males. Every time you see all these Asian couples, you see all these white, the political degeneracy, the political divide, why races are hated and all this. It's a power struggle at the end. But guess what? Everyone says all this kind of crap about them being right, but in the end, we forget to understand that it's all about power, that it doesn't matter because China has the right, the little guy has the right to get angry. The little guy has the right to kill you because you, as a big guy, of course it's survival of the fittest, right? The biggest are supposed to survive and, or whatever it is, they're supposed to survive. But it's also about who survives in the fittest environment. It's also about using ideologies like, I don't care if I die, I'll take you down because I'll drag you down to hell with me if I have to. And people think that's wrong, but it's actually right because everything that we do, bad or good, is all to do with human chance of survivalism. As to determine whether, people talk about, the end justifies the means, that, hell is so evil, God is evil, the atheists say that, that there's no such thing as this and that. Doesn't matter, because what matters is the powerful motivator of the human need to be right. Because we need to survive. But the difference is that what we think is right is not actually right. It's only that we tie what is right into what we think is right to survive. In order to survive, we think that it's right. But sometimes what we survive by is sometimes also wrong. Imagine if you think we can think that killing is morally appropriate. We could revert, like the society that we have now, we could reverse all the rules and we think it's wrong. But you would never know that even such a society could actually surprise you and be morally right. But people say, oh, woe to those who say that good is bad and bad is good. But by these rules, these arbitrary rules the rules that we live by, even if they're broken, and even if we follow and obey these rules, it's not always going to be that we're going to succeed. No, we're not. Because at the end of the day, everyone can live a rich life. Everyone can have Teslas, Lamborghinis, and we can have 6. But the amount that we consume is going to showcase that Earth is going to be destroyed. We're going to consume, if nuclear war happens, or even if nuclear war doesn't happen, let's just say global climate change or something like that, and everybody's consuming at an alarming rate. And we keep denying it until the very end, and we're going to be in this we're going to fall into this cliff, even if we disbelieve it. Because we really are going to fall in this cliff, and, we're going to fight against it. But at the end, it's going to happen. The fact is, everything that happens now is a result of all sorts of, I don't care who are we to judge that pseudoscience is pseudoscientific? We, as human beings, are still flawed in our nature, even if they could argue that there is no evidence for this and that and this and that. And we prove it. How are you to prove something? That, there's no such thing as flying saucers, there's no such thing as aliens and all that. We have not even scratched the surface that if there are aliens, why would we think that, they're going to, why would we, we arrogantly are going to think that there are no such thing as aliens, and it's just us. oh, and, I've never seen, oh, and we can't prove that interstellar, spaceships exist because there's no evidence. And then they're going to say absence of evidence is not the prerequisite for saying that, oh, we're just going to solid evidence, Because out there's definitely an interstellar spaceship flying beyond, speed of light. And right now we have like, a cemented, like, what do you call it? Oh, cemented facts. And, but that's just it. Just what we deem that we think it's, that's concrete evidence. But this world is more than what we think it is. It can change, And we as humans are so arrogant to think that we really can nail it down. We built societies to be nailed down so that we can feel secure about the unknown. That having sex, fighting, having a good job is all that matters. Having money is what matters. I don't care how much money you have, man. If I don't care whether you're bigger or taller than me. If I've got a gun, I don't care if you got a gun or not. If I'm a better shot than you, if I've trained 2 years longer than you, I'm definitely gonna be more better than you. Even if my cardio is bad, then I'll have to just fix my cardio up. Even if that's bad, I could use anything, a tool. I could, that's why we have a lot of criminals who cheat the system, and people say, hey, man, that's not fair, man. Violence is never fair. Violence is basically, when I'm in this situation, I don't give a fuck about whatever happens. In my experience, everything that I do, I have a right to defend myself. Not even defend, I don't care. I just want to end your life quickly, and I don't care about the repercussions, whether you have friends or family. If I've got the most aggression out of them all, then I will end their lives. And people say, oh, that's bad, that's evil, that's a lot of evil individuals are like that because they're so pushed to the brink of the inability to survive and thrive. When you take someone else's ability to do that, to thrive and feel loved and cared and related to, then I can assure you, you have created your own monster. I can not one point, and you can't blame these people. They can all feel like, there's this recent case, right, in New Zealand, in Chicago, at Dunedin. This kid was being bullied, right? And this kid was being bullied so hard that he took out a knife and he stabbed the bully that was bullying him. But everybody held a funeral for the bully and blamed the victim. And, it's like, oh, this kid's so good. And yet you have other people in America saying, he's playing the race card, playing the victim card, playing this, and they're trying to defend the actions of what the officer did. And yet, to be honest, both sides are wrong. The officer is trigger happy. The guy is defending his own need to. He panics and he's like, I don't want the shit to happen against me. And everyone's just really fed up. And you can't blame these people. But they mock on these internet people. They're bots as well. They're not real people. They mock you and they laugh at you. They mock at the perpetrator, which is actually a victim, and they laugh at you and they do all kinds of shit to make the victim, the perpetrator, which is actually the victim, feel bad. That's how crime happens. Why do we have so many gangs in New Zealand? Why do we have a hooligan culture in Australia and all these kind of things? It's because people want to feel that they are the aggressor, that they've got the power, that they've got the ego, without realizing that the more you kind of create this kind of culture, this kind of subset of arrogant culture, that, you're going to eventually run into people when, like the Joker says, the ending of Joker 1, people snap. Like, you're just going to take a knife and stab. And then people are going to be like, oh, no, I'm scared of the police. Help, this guy's attacking people. And it's like, dude, those people are actually victims that you make into monsters, but you don't even give a shit. But you just look at it, I just care about my own. You have criminals running a society, denying that they're criminals, and they're making victims. They're setting up victims. Bullies get off scot-free in the world, and nobody gives a shit, and we're defending this kind of purpose. But then we have ideologies like Christianity, this, that, New Age, all this kind of thing. And then we complain when these people, it's just simply a fact of life that, simply put, it's about the struggle for survival. And everything else as well, And every lie that we tell of ourselves, that it's not about it's about success, it's about the failure, but it's about survival at the end. The bad is actually also can be once good. The good actually can be also the bad, pretending to be, Satan. Like, the one thing that the Bible, even if the scientists do disagree about it, philosophically, even others attest that, Satan dresses himself up as, the good guy, right? We do see this in movies, a lot of, like, even if, the female nature of, reproductive success, oh, look at him, he's so handsome, he's so good, he can be an evil person, and females would still justify it, and people will say, oh, no, you're an incel. What? The fuck, whatever it is that they say is just denial. Everybody's in denial of their own human nature. They're the same. Everybody's just trying to one-up each other. And everybody's just being narcissistic. But you also got to understand, sometimes not all narcissists are actually they're made narcissists. But they're not narcissists as well. Autistic people got a bad rep these days in the media because, we are becoming more eugenical. We're becoming more ableist. Because there's just something that's happening in the world today. That everything's going haywire because there's probably some kind of fucking cataclysm coming. And people say it's pseudoscientific. But whatever it is, it doesn't matter. People are reaching a boiling state. And it's going to explode. Just like a volcano. We think that, but volcanoes are a natural part of life. It's not evil, it's not good, it's just simply the way that nature works. The only problem is that we live near a volcano. But what more should we say that when we as a whole society, we are setting up ourselves for a disaster. Much less we've got to worry about man-made issues. But much less we got to worry about natural disasters. But we've got to worry about our own ones, our own man-made ones. Can you blame, like, the system, it's not an excuse. The system forces us to fight one another. It's true. And we think it's okay and it's normal to compete, to hate, to fight one another. But it's not. The system forces us, and we blame ourselves and we blame each other for not obeying the system, but it's actually our own fault for making the system like this. They will blame us for speeding, the red light cameras. They will send police to fine us, but they will not budge one fucking inch to realize that something is wrong with the traffic lights. And there's something wrong with the mentality, the way that we are treating our own kind, our fellow human beings. We put all these yellow, like the streets that we park in New Zealand, right? In Auckland particularly, right? They've got all these, yellow marks, and they've got them there for reasons, and everyone's trying to justify using these excuses for safety and security, which actually, no matter, even if the person who invented the quote, who did, I'm not going to talk about that. you force people into a box, they're gonna get angry. You know, you have tall guys who say it's not about looks, this and that. You're gonna have short guys getting angry because that's the nature of life, and it's fair. Because, you know, you look at the chimps, you look at the bonobos, people who get violent, you get, like, you have these alpha males, right? Not alpha males, I wouldn't say. You have these big, tall dudes, right, that get these chicks and everyone else is getting angry. It's fair. It's fair on them to get angry. Because everyone is striving to have some semblance, some piece of living a life for the sake of living a life to survive. And people say, oh, but you don't contribute to anything. Who the fuck do you think you are to say that you don't, to judge others that they don't contribute anything? They even don't contribute anything. They're a programmer. Oh, wow, congratulations. But you don't contribute to your own fellow human being to feel kind and at peace. You judge, you get all sorts of, empathetic, you talk behind people's backs just because I don't give a fuck whether you're a programmer, if you're a billionaire. You have, like, one day you could go to New York and have a freak accident where this mental ill guy, just, because you didn't say thank you, he could stab you over it and everyone's mourning. That's the life is, is by chance or by some sort of, calculated mechanical, not precision, but just, there's just time and chance for everything to happen. And why should we mourn those who have rather than pity those who do not have? But that's the nature of humanity. We look and we see, then what's the point? Because it's also the problem of those who have that, you can blame the poor, but everybody is trying to live their lives. And it's also not their own fault for, trying to, give birth to children. Because, if we had a different way to, instead of spending wars, let China take Taiwan. Right now, what matters more is our ability to change our minds, not to bother with the made up things about country borders, about fucking the words of democracy and all that kind of bullshit, and pretending that I work at a nicer career than yours, but it's to help people. I respect janitors. I respect scientists who work in the field for the potential applications for sociology, neurology, and criminology. Not those fucks who just want to invent AI and all that kind of bullshit, because that's superficial. That does not matter at all in life. Because what matters in life is how we make other human beings better for ourselves. We could mourn and kill 1,000 rapists and mourn all the victims of rape, but we can't even figure out the fact that if we could, it's like trying to build, trying to push a cure for cancer, but a cure for, sexual, the need for aggressive sexual outlets. If we could change a man's mind like that, and if we could give the man that needs the most love in his life, as society, we would push ourselves so far. That would be, that we would, but now we're like, a lot of interests are controlling in the way that we're evolving, and we're going back to a society there where it's all about, I wouldn't say might is right, but about, like who's the so-called toughest. Because if nuclear war were to break out tomorrow, all these so-called alpha guys, all these big cunts, the gym, the bodybuilders, they will fight each other. They will band towards each other, but they will eventually fight one another. They will try to pick on the little guy, but eventually they will fight one another because they will always have issues like that. Because they're always trying to prove who's the strongest. And even if they can prove themselves to be strong males, they won't last long because their ego defeats. The ego is going to defeat themselves. But you might say that's a cope. It's not a cope. Societies in the past have always have that kind of cycle. The only difference now that what we have is technology. But yet even technology means nothing. But for those who, of course, there is actually, you've got to concede to this one, those who are rich. And so, the main point is to acknowledge that everyone needs to survive, even those who cannot survive, wants to survive. We ought to pity. We're, as a society, are so fucking hypocritical. We look at the burn victims. We look at people who say, looks don't matter. And yet we subconsciously, not unconsciously, demand, due to our very innate need to judge, that these things do matter. But we pretend that they don't. But we also, to ourselves, prove that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That, okay, I'll give you what you want because you keep saying to yourself a lot of negative things. I will put negativity in front of you. And that kind of society is a sick fucking society that we live in now. But the good news is that you gotta toughen yourself up if you do that. So life is giving ourselves a taste of what we want to think. That what we don't want to think as well is what we're going to be pushed by. As a guy, I can't blame myself but feel insecure about other couples. But I also can't care if other people are turning into an incel, because as a matter of fact, you make that kind of society. You make that kind of society that promotes dividends, anger towards another person. That they're successful. You can't blame these people. If we made a society based on equitable justice, that it's okay, I love you, and the last time this, we wouldn't have men who rape, who kill, who cannot get what they want, and they're forced to get what they want by doing evil because people neglect their needs. And people say, you're not owed sex, you're not owed this, you're not owed. Everyone is owed this in their lives. And even if you say, hey man, you're not owed, hey man, we really are owed. They are just trying to push us into our lanes to say that we're not owed. We are. Everyone is actually entitled. Everyone's actually being entitled. The only difference is who is allowed to be entitled. But no one is actually, the world that we live in, we are saying no one is allowed to be entitled. But actually, we're all acting entitled here. The only difference is that those who are not entitled, those who are denied their entitlement, is actually getting more entitled because they don't have their entitlement. And the funny thing is that those who are entitled, who gets their entitlement in all sorts of needs and wants, accept the fact that they're entitled, or they don't, and are grateful for being entitled. But it depends on the individual whether he becomes more arrogant or he becomes more humble in accepting gratitude of what he has, that he pities the little guy and he doesn't punch the little guy. You've got to admit that society is setting us up for failure here. Recently the New Zealand government has fortunately legalized psilocybin mushrooms. I might get that treatment, it'll help me a lot. But thank goodness we did that, because we look at Australia, we look at a lot of places, and it's also not only that, they're doing that because they don't want the poor to lash out and have a French Revolution at the rich. They don't want the majority of New Zealanders to complain and like, oh, Christopher Luxon's gonna, get like, oh, all these, but he's just a prime minister, just the same as anyone else. Someone else goes up onto the stage, that position, everyone's gonna get angry at the rich, not because that the poor are poor, because they're poor, but that we don't help the poor. But there are some people who genuinely just reject help. Not because of their victimization. That's one thing. It's easy to say that. But it's because of the fact that they're unable to open themselves up, to acknowledge that they're weak. Some people take pride in the fact that they will use their weakness as an excuse, and they will be narcissistic, they will be psychopathic, they will be sociopathic. At the end of the day, it's still a kind of like mechanism for that person to, feel egotistically powerful. And when it crumbles down, it's just bad. Not bad, but it's just the law and the nature of order of things. Despite us thinking that it's chaotic, it's evil, it's bad, it's what nature has made us out to be. And we are supposed to grow better from that. But because of our own attitudes towards the Freudian shadow, the culture of success and failure, we destroy one another in the name of success. When we become successful, we make others failures. Not that, I don't know how to explain it, but and we demand, we defend the world that we live in today, that must, as you are a loser, stay in your lane, you will always be a loser. The fucking fact is that you're a loser. Give up. But people deny this and, deny this, and when you rouse them up and they slap you in the face and they say, don't ever talk to me like that because I'm not that kind of person, it's because they know it's true. But at the end of the day, when you gotta take it with maturity as well, like I like it how the movies nowadays, it's just, I don't know what to say, man. But people just gotta find a way to, accept the fact that in life, people who don't get what they want, they're gonna go crazy because that's just nature. Nature built in a sickening way for us to lash out. It's just the funny part, because human brains don't really want to use their power because it's hard, right? Because we've only recently developed the rational brain, and some of us are just not logical at all. We're born the way we are. God makes us unique. Oh my gosh. It's actually our mom and our dad that makes us unique. Not, God's part of it anyways, but even if it's just science and genetics, it's what it is. And yet we will say to people who are like, look at the end result. People only look at the tip of the iceberg and they don't realize that the world, it's always, the iceberg has been building up and up and up and up. They're looking only at the tip. They look at the results and the consequences and never the process of that grew up to that point of why these things happen. But it's just like that. It's just like that. That's just simply what it is.